24. Do the pledge first.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. First of all, do the agenda. Is there anything to add to the agenda? I have one item. Bobby Kubas would like to speak in regards to, he missed the public hearing last week. He'd like to speak on the, regards to the public hearing on the, anything else to add to the agenda?
Was this contract?
Yeah, I was just going to add that, Mr. Chairman, Emergency Manager Elena Decker would like to add the Motorola dispatch contract to the agenda for discussion.
Okay. Anything else? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor, state aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Next, then we'll do the minutes from February 6th meeting. Is there any corrections or the minutes? Now I'll look for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the minutes from the February 6th, 2024 meeting.
I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Second. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Next, counts payable. Is there any questions on the counts payable?
Quickly, is Neil unmuted? I didn't hear him.
I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, just for the record too, that Commissioner Messer is on Zoom on this and is not present here. Okay, counts payable. Is there any questions on the bills? Any questions of the bills? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve. There's some bills that a department head has to sign on, hasn't signed off on yet there, but pending the approval of the department head on some bills.
I'll look to approve the bills pending the department head signature on those. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call vote from Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh,
Aye.
Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner Messer,
Aye.
and Chair votes aye, motion carried. Next, we got Park Board Commission items, and I guess, Mr. Kubas, you had some comments on this. Do you want to speak now, or?
Thank you, Chairman Franchuk. Commissioners, I missed the meeting on, I think it was Tuesday last week, but I did read the newspaper article in the Dickinson Press that kind of outlined a little bit about what was said. And I'm here to speak in opposition to the proposed building that the Park Board wants to, or the Fair Association wants to erect. And the reasons are, we have to ask ourselves if this is a need or a want. In the newspaper, there was a lot of the word need in there, that we need this for certain groups, or we need this for that. Well, that need isn't exactly the need like we need Corey Lee and the Sheriff's Department or the roads and bridges. It was mentioned that this project, or this idea, was going on since the 70s, the 1970s. Well, if they would have started fundraising for this thing a long time ago, they would have had that building up a long time ago. I'm opposed to the way it would be funded by the use of property tax. And the reason for that is because not everybody is going to benefit from this building. We already have Stark County Fairgrounds that gets used very little I don't know if it's 90% of the time it sits empty right now.
It's booked every weekend. There's 3 weekends in this next summer, it's not booked.
You're talking about the arena.
Fairgrounds that we have there now, yes.
Are we pulling any revenue out of it, or is it a liability?
It brings in revenue. I mean, I don't know what we get charged for renting it, but it's used. Like I said, there's 3 weekends that's coming up this next summer, it's not booked.
So you're saying every weekend that outdoor arena is being used?
Yep.
If this building that's proposed can show that we can get some revenue out of it, that's a different story. If it's gonna cost, I think the number was in there around 5 million, I think that's pretty low. I think it would be a lot higher than that. If the county would want to give land and pay for the maintenance of this proposed building, I think that would be sufficient. I think the building should be fundraised for, I don't know, I don't think it's gonna take that long to fundraise for the building, but I'm opposed to using my tax dollars and the people that are opposing their tax dollars for this project.
Fundraising is part of the process that is being proposed, so.
Another thing is, we have DSU is supposedly putting up an ag building, I don't know when. But that building already has $17 million already, from the state. So, and then we gotta ask ourselves, do we actually need 2 big buildings? Because that one's gonna be pretty big the way it sounds. So I know this isn't something that you guys are all deciding today or even next meeting, but I would, I don't know, it's up to you essentially, according to Amanda, that you guys are the final say and what's gonna get done here. But I would just encourage to maybe just see what's gonna happen with this ag building, first of all. If there's that much interest in the Stark County building that wants to be proposed on the fairgrounds, we need to see some P&L on it first
Can argue that.
before we should actually, anybody can actually come to any conclusions on that. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Is there anything else for the park board commission items? If not, then we'll move on to the years of service. On there, we have 3 employees this year we're going to recognize that have the years of service. First, John Hilton with the Sheriff's Department has 5 years of service. I'd like to commend him on that. He's not present in the Sheriff's. And then we have 2 from the Road Department. It's Myron Shank has 10 years with the county. On that, we'd like to recognize them. Thank you for their service. And then Chad Stoltz has 10 years with the county. It's at the Road Department. So congratulations to the years of service for those 3 employees. And they'll get their certificates from the Human Resource Officer then. Next, then we move on to the Sheriff's report.
Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. Excuse me. February highlights for the Stark County Sheriff's Department. Total calls for service were 1,698. This is up from 1,446 last year. 205 traffic stops. This is up from 190. 424 PR stops. That's up from 370 last year. 17 bar checks. That's up from 11 last year. 5 theft-related calls for service. That's up from 4 last year. 21 canine usages, 3 truck rig stops, and she was involved in 24 additional calls for service. Responded to 12 accidents. One of those was a hit and run, and the 11 others were property accidents. We had conducted 15 prisoner transports, 16 court transports. 0 of those were medical, 1 was juvenile, 3 assists for other counties, and 5 mental health. The civil division was very busy again this last month. Quite impressive numbers, actually. 251 attempts. 28 of those were subpoenas, 122 were civil papers, and 17 were criminal papers. You'll notice that our arrests were kind of through the roof in February. There was 126 total arrests. 82 of those were warrants served, so we got caught up at some of those areas there with the warrants. Just wanted to invite you guys, as always, to come help us with the Easter egg hunts this month. We have Richardson on March 23rd at 11 o'clock, I believe. We have Dickinson and March 30th at 11 o'clock. We have Belfield. We're playing on 2:30 on the 30th as well. And we may give Gladstone some assistance with theirs that the fire department typically runs out there. Speaking of Gladstone, the Gladstone City Commission met last night and they approved the contract with us. That contract pretty much mirrors what we do in South Hart and Richardson, with the same fees and same expectations. So we will probably start that here shortly. I haven't signed that yet, and I'll certainly give that to Amanda to review before I sign it, but it's gonna pretty much look the way the other ones do. Does anybody have any comments on that? After you're done choking, Bernie?
I do have a comment. And the canine uses was up or down from last month?
I think it was pretty close to steady, and that's,
What's it all,
pretty-
I mean, what's it all involved when you do a canine?
you asked me
use?
this last time.
I wasn't here last time.
Okay, it was the time before. But, yes, so that's going to be, that could be an apprehension or an attempted apprehension. So you use the dog in a felony stop or things like that. That's narcotic searches. 21 is a little bit on the low end, but you kind of typically see that in the winter months, that those dip down a little bit. So you'll see those probably, hopefully come back up in when the,
I just think I
Other
find it
changes.
to be a very interesting usage. And I think they're a great addition to the services that you do.
for sure. Being a guy that had one in the back of his car for 15 years, I can tell you that they save your butt a lot, especially during the oil boom. It was a nice deterrent when the bad guys would hear your dog barking. They would kind of calm down, or when you pull up to a fight at Armies and the dog's going nuts in the back, it kind of calms people down. Typically, not always, but. All right, moving on. We started our second detective here in February, so hopefully those two can get caught up on some of their activities. And hopefully again, that the sex cases take a dip down, because as we know and have all seen, they're ridiculous in the last year and a half especially. I did want to bring up one more thing. I did speak to Commissioner Messer briefly yesterday. I'm hoping that you guys will consider this in the next budget cycle. We saw Dunn County go up about 9% with their pay. We saw the city of Dickinson and some of their areas go up almost 9% in pay, I believe. I'm hoping that we don't fall behind, and I'm not talking about pay here today, but the health insurance, I think, is a way we can work on retention. And the city does this, and maybe Dusty, you can help me out if they have questions, but they do a sliding scale. So as people are here 5 years, 10 years, I don't know how you guys do that, but the percentage they pay for the health insurance goes up. So example, if somebody was here for 5 years, maybe their family health plan would go up to 85% from 80%, 10 years up to 90%. So then there's some buy-in for them. And it's a retention piece to help keep our employees. I think the city was really hit the nail on the head by doing that, and I'm hoping that's something that we can institute moving forward as well. Just a thought for the next budget cycle.
Can you remind us?
Is this,
I will definitely remind you.
is this for employee only or employee and family?
Both. So right now we have our single plan is 90%, our family plan is 80%. And I believe you guys do both, right, with what you're doing, so. I prefer when they steal my ideas, but sometimes we have to steal theirs, so.
And it's a retention tool.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
I believe so, yes. Finally, Paul, do you know when that construction's slated to start?
We're gonna meet here this Thursday. I've been waiting to hear a report from Dean, but I suspect here as soon as possible. We're kinda dependent on when Central can get us their hands.
Okay. Are you guys amicable to me meeting and researching the possibility of moving into the basement of the old city hall? Renting that space while that construction is taking place?
Well, I think we're gonna have some hopefully we're gonna have some idea. You need a timeline, right? And we discussed this a little bit, you and I did. Have you ran anything past them as far as rates or? at this
No,
point?
I visited with just Shirley alone, and she was very excited about the idea. I haven't gone any further than that because I don't know what their ranges are or any of that. I guess if I could, maybe you and I or whoever could meet with them and,
Have you had a walkthrough? I mean, would it fit?
you know, we have a little bit of space in the courthouse here we could use, and we're just gonna have to make something work. It's
Well,
not gonna
hopefully
be
it's-
comfortable, but
Yeah, hopefully it's a short-term solution thing,
Yeah.
so, yeah. I don't have any, I mean, you know what you need for your space requirements better than anybody, so I don't have any problem with you, finding some options for us here. And I think this Thursday, we have an LEC meeting, we should, starts, finding out how this all looks logistically here when we might get into this, so.
okay.
So what would you all be moving over there?
Well, I don't think, I think the patrol guys, as much as they might not like it, can do the bulk of their offices are more so their cars anyway, but where we're gonna struggle is, how we're gonna handle 24/7 program, things like that. But obviously the girls would need to move down there from the front office, Nicole, Eldon, Jesse, potentially.
And what, do you have to change for security over there then?
Well, we would still hopefully be able to use the lobby of the law enforcement center for 24/7, but there's gonna be some running back and forth and some logistics that we need to work out there, so.
So basically just be offices over there for
Yep,
the time period of the construction.
correct.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Next, you have the road department has some surplus items. Do you have any words on that for the portfolio holders on this?
All I have is just the list.
That's all I've seen so far too. I don't know if it's gonna be at an auction or how they're gonna be doing that.
I think in the past, there was the auction down by Sheffield. In the spring, they had an auction there that they usually sold it there. Is that the plan on that?
Yeah, I would assume.
So the commission to make this, it just has a motion to declare these as surplus items so that they can be sold.
Okay.
Okay, I'll look for that motion.
So I'll make a motion for the Stark County surplus items to be sold at auction.
Okay,
The listed items we have.
motion, do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Next, to go to Northern Plains, Jeremy Wood.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Just a couple real brief updates. 131st, we're still waiting for construction to start. It's probably April or May for that project to get going, those box culvert replacements. As far as our design projects, kind of waiting for the 32nd and 107th project to get funding. If you remember, we applied for some flex funding. Supposedly in March sometime, we'll know if that got awarded, so, potentially any day we'll kind of get an update on that. And then our last design project, we have a bid opening today for 41st, 109th, and 114th combined projects. It's about 3.5 miles of grading. Our engineer's estimate is $645,000, so we'll open bids in about 40 minutes and then we'll kind of see where the numbers come in. But that's all I had for you, but I'll obviously be here for the bid opening at 10.
Okay, thank you. And nobody's here from KLJ today. They weren't able to attend, so skip that. Next, we'll go with the City of Dickinson. You can present.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Thank you for allowing us to get on the agenda today. It's always a tough act to follow following Sheriff Lee, but we'll try to do our best here this morning. But goal today is I have with me Deputy City Administrator of Finance, Linda Carlson, and our City Engineer Community Development Director, Josh Galuszczyk. So our goal today is to provide the county with an update on a few of the items and projects that we currently have going on within the City of Dickinson. So you want to advance the slide, first project, we'll talk about to be the Baylor Building expansion project. So this is a project that ranks at the top of our CIP list. This project is definitely needed in our community. This building wasn't designed for a population our size and was designed prior to us taking on recycling. One of the things that we want to do in the future is take on commercial recycling in our community, and this is definitely a needed building in our community. We are looking at expanding 16,000 square feet to the existing facility and adding 4,000 feet of cold storage on that site as well. We are looking at making improvements to our scale house where there'd be actually 3 scales and actually have a public drop-off area for trees, brush, other items like that currently we have on our Broadway site. We'll maintain that Broadway site, but we also want to make improvements out at our Baylor building area out there. So you can this is kind of a picture of our current Baylor issues that we are experiencing. Oftentimes our floor is full of garbage and rubbish, and we often risk the chance of cross-contamination with our recycling items. When we back in our rear loader trucks and our other trucks in there, the space is extremely tight. Very difficult working environments out there. We want to improve basically our efficiency and also make it a much safer place for our employees to work out there. This is kind of a example of what the scale houses and scales could look like out. You'd have a commercial area where they get weighed. You'd also have the incoming and outgoing. If you've experienced our scales out there, oftentimes there's a line up there. It's not very efficient, or oftentimes it eats a lot of time up for our community members and for our commercial haulers. So we definitely want to improve that process out there. This is an example of what we're looking to do with our Z-walls, they are called. Those are the areas where you would back up, drop off your tree, brushes, and other debris. They just drop right off that wall into those canisters. Makes it much more efficient for our city operations to move them.
So that you'll be backing up at a higher level and these canisters will be sitting when you just...
That's correct.
Great.
You no longer would have to lift it up over into the bins,
Great.
save your back. So we're excited about that. It just makes it much easier for our consumers to utilize that facility. A project estimate, we're looking at about a total of about $9.3 million for this project. Construction costs are estimated about $8.4 million, and engineering about $0.9 million. Like I said, this is one of our main CIP projects that we want to move forward with in our community, and we're looking for about an anticipated outlay of about this year and into 2025 with this project.
So once this is done, the amount of traffic going out to the dump will get minimized tremendously, I take it, right?
It would impact that, but it would still, depending on what you're hauling out there, but it would definitely impact that.
And then for recycling, that's going to be mostly just cardboard yet? Or are we going to be moving into anything else?
We'll stay maintained with the same current products that we are currently recycling. There's not much of a demand for those other items right now.
No, yeah.
But we won't change the type of items that we are currently taking in
So
at this point in time.
The commercial recycling, is that businesses in town as well?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. And actually, we are going to kick off a pilot project here in the next couple of weeks with Dickinson Park and Rec, the Rust River Community Center, is trying to take in their recyclables as well. And that kind of is really going to launch us into the commercial side of things.
Well, this is exciting.
Okay, move on. Our next project is our what we call our fire station construction renovation project. If you're familiar with that building, you know that it's fairly old. It's well over about 100 years old. Currently, we are in the middle of a feasibility study of renovating Fire Station 1 or to construct a new facility. So we had our kickoff last week, several meetings with our engineering firm and looking at what's the best route moving forward with that building. We are considering both its current location and alternative sites if it is determined that we need to construct a new fire hall. The picture there is a picture of our existing fire hall. Currently, a large portion of that foundation is actually made out of rocks. And there is a hollow space underneath where we park our fire trucks. So that's definitely a concern for us. We have about, fire trucks ain't cheap right now. They're about well over $1 million, and we basically have them over top of a hollow surface held up by a rock foundation in certain areas. of that. So we are looking as far as what's the best mode moving forward with that facility.
So is that whole basement area just all wide open, or is there supports some between there? Because that's, like you said, a lot of weight.
We have, yes, I think about a year ago or 2 years ago, we did hire a firm to basically shore up that area, but basically that was a Band-Aid. So.
Okay.
So we know that in the future, we have to do something different as far as renovating or moving out of that facility.
So what, I mean, the floor has got to be, I mean, construct, what was it made of and what makes it so strong enough to support all that?
That I couldn't tell you. I haven't. That would be a good question for the engineers, so.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
out of curious because, I mean,
Yes.
I understand where your
Basically, when you
concerns
drive
are
a
at.
truck on it, you can see the floor actually give. So that's kind of concerning.
All right.
Next slide, please. So, project cost of this, a new facility, you're looking at right around $7 million. Renovation of the current facility is really unknown. Right now, we are still looking for grants or other funding sources for this project. But this is one that definitely is also ranks at the top of our CIP list for the city of Dickinson. I'll turn it over to our Community Development Director and City Engineer, Josh Galuszczak.
Good morning, Commission. I'm Josh Skolzacik, Engineering Community Development Director for the city. I just want to talk a little bit about a few different topics here. So first off is the Renaissance Zone extension. So this is something that's the state level program, originally approved in 1999. And right now there's over 50 cities that participate. Over the years since this has been taking place, over 1,900 projects have been submitted and over 1,500 have been executed throughout the state. This Renaissance Zone opportunity is a tax incentive, so the way that the city has largely utilized this program is it's more of like a freeze on your current property tax basis. For historically, it's been a five-year tax freeze, so that gives those individual property owners opportunities to not see property tax increases for those 5 years while they're ultimately funding a project and seeing those expenses to improve the project. So next slide, please. Over time, so there was an additional island opportunity. So that area to the north where the mall is and whatnot, that was added as an actual island. Specifically then to the south, that downtown area was the original area. There's a total number of blocks that are allowed for by the state, not to exceed number of blocks. So the city has maximized that total number of blocks, including then the island. One risk is you make any changes. For example, if you remove a block or an area out of the Renaissance Zone, you can never actually put those back in. So it's kind of it's something that we look at. Where are those applications actually coming in? Which projects are actually being completed in which areas? But ultimately, if it's a little bit of a challenge if we want to remove a block from the Renaissance Zone, because then there may be an opportunity in the future that somebody has, but right now it hasn't been utilized. With that being said, though, the intent is that today we'd provide some information on the Renaissance Zone and give you guys some additional feedback and whatnot. Allow you kind of some time to think about this, ask any additional questions that you may have, but ultimately the intent would be in April, come back and request specifically a letter from the Stark County Commission asking us to extend this for, I believe, 10 years. The last extension was a 5-year extension. In this case, we're extending it 10 years. And then the couple of minor changes would go from previously the maximum allowable was a 5-year duration for the Ren Zone. In this case, there's a maximum allowable for an 8-year duration for that Ren Zone. So those are just a couple of unique cases. But anyways, that's something we'll be looking to do here at the April meeting. So any questions you guys have on the Renaissance Zone?
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
just a real quick question for Josh. I know historically, in these Renaissance zones, when you put the tax freeze on, whether it's for 5 years or 10 years, do all political subdivisions have to sign off on that? Or if we sign the letter of support for the Renaissance zone, does the, do those freezes happen automatically? That's my question, I guess.
So in that case, what we're working on right now is actually meeting with the Dickinson Public School District as well as Dickinson Park and Recreation to ultimately talk to those other taxation districts and make sure that we have letters of support from all of the appropriate taxation districts before we bring this to the City Commission for final approval.
Commissioner White, did you have a question?
When were you planning to bring it to the city commission?
City Commission probably won't be until probably into May or early June. We'd like to gather these individual letters here, hopefully in April, and as early as we can, but ultimately it would be most likely into May.
Okay.
The deadline, I believe, is July, so we want to make sure we get it done before then. So.
Any other questions? No, thanks.
All right. We can go to the next slide. Topic of Patterson Lake. So this is something, actually, and thank you, Commissioner Claris, for attending a meeting last week with the Bureau of Reclamation. We've been working on for some time now, over a year, on the kind of the water quality concerns and constraints with Patterson Lake, overall water supply, as well as there's some challenges from an aquatic habitat and those kind of things. But ultimately, one of the main goals that the city has is to submit for a Bureau of Reclamation grant. It's the Water Smart grant. And that would ultimately move us into a project type of a focus on really understanding and gathering information on what are the real challenges with Patterson Lake, how do we minimize the, in particular, be the phosphorus loading that we typically see in the water and in the sediments in the lake, how do we minimize the sedimentation that has occurred over time, and then ultimately, you know, is there a potential opportunity there for additional restoration for the actual lake? And one of the main benefits, though, fundamentally would be not only on the water quality, improving the water quality in the lake so we don't have as much algae bloom, overall volume of water, both from a water supply standpoint, and the city's in the process of regaining the water rights that we used to have before Southwest Water was in place. And then ultimately, then there is a bit of a flood risk when you have less available volume for storage in the lake. That does add a little bit of risk to the flooding aspects. So those are all kind of attributes to what we're working towards. Next slide, please.
So then would you be dredging it? I mean, would part of the reclamation that you mentioned, would that be dredging it out and cleaning out the river channel and just making the rest of it deeper and more recreational use? And I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so
always been said it's our emergency water source for the community. So, I mean, I totally agree that I like where you're going with this.
okay. So that's definitely one of the reasonable possibilities as we dig into this and try to understand the overall risks. One of the things that we actually have going right now, the City Commission approved earlier in 2023, they approved for the aerial imagery and the LiDAR survey to be completed. Those flights occurred at the same time that the aerial imagery was updated for the rest of the city, so that was a planned flight already, so we just added in some additional area. That data, we're analyzing that right now and finalizing that with our GIS specialist, and then ultimately we're in process of transferring that data over to the Bureau of Reclamation. This either spring or early summer, the Bureau of Reclamation is going to be doing a bathymetric survey. So that's basically measuring or doing a topographic survey of the bottom of the lake. And then they're going to rerun estimates on total sedimentation volumes in the lake. So those are aspects that the city has already, allocated dollars and committed resources towards. Bureau of Rec is committing, I think they quoted something to the tune of like almost $100,000 for that bathymetric survey that they're gonna be, putting forth, so that's an internal cost for them. And, so ultimately, the total grant award maximum allowable is 400,000. We're gonna be shooting for, if possible, the 75% total contribution from the Bureau of Rec, 25% local government contribution. In that case, we believe that there's a ecological restoration aspect to it, which makes it a higher percentage. Worst case, it would be a 50-50. We should know later on this summer, they did just extend, as of last week, they extended, the grant deadline was coming up here in the next few weeks, got pushed about another month. But ultimately, we're hoping that we theoretically get awarded the grant and then ultimately start work in early 2025 on the project. And
So what year was it dammed up?
I'd have to look back in the study. I thought that was in the late 40s, early 50s, if I recall correctly.
Late 40s, I'm thinking. I mean, so that's 80 years of sediment being brought in and the river channel getting more shallow and the depth of the whole lake and changing the whole the way nature works in there.
Yep. So ultimately, when the dam was constructed originally, they had a 50-year design life on it, so we've exceeded that by a significant amount of time already. So it's definitely something that it's a need.
Has to.
So, yep, absolutely. Any other questions or feedback?
So what is your timeline? So they extended the grant application to what? Is it May or is it?
I think it was early May, if I recall correctly. So that gives us a little bit more time to further mature and approve our grant application, and then ultimately the intent of the call last week, where Commissioner Claris sat in on the call with Mayor Decker and members from city staff. The intent was just to basically kind of present a tentative submittal to the Bureau of Rec, see if they had any additional feedback or information they wanted to share where we could improve or do additional things in our submittal. So,
Do you have to show proof of non-federal funds before you make the application?
I can't recall if that's one of the requirements. I can take a look at that. A lot of times that is one of the requirements, but.
Okay. Well, I was glad to come in, as I've heard this, and I've always known it used to be our water source, right? Many years ago, but and we're grateful for Southwest Water. But as far as overall security of the area of the city, it's nice to actually go down the road and look at an alternative source in the event of the hopefully unlikely event we need an alternative source. But it's always nice to have that backup. So
Absolutely. So, any other questions on Patterson Lake, or kind of where the city's ultimately? We wanted to make sure we gave you guys a presentation and just kind of understood what we were looking at and those kind of things, because fundamentally the fact is it's not in city limits. So we're not trying to step into your guys' territory or anything. That's not the intent. Trying to be a collaborator, not anything else. So.
Well, regardless, it's still a prime concern of the city, so I mean.
Yep, absolutely.
So this is a study to see that, it's basically a feasibility study to see what can be done to rehab the water, its volume, quality, so on and so forth. And at that point, so this study will give you a plan to go forward.
Yeah, ideally, we'd be able to actually move into an engineering phase to where, if in fact deemed feasible, we could even look at the engineering aspects of potentially dredging or removing the sedimentation. Current estimates, which are about a decade old, are about 3.2 million cubic feet of sedimentation has ultimately moved into that lake area, which is a significant volume.
Yes.
So
80 years.
you go through this process, then the next phase is an engineering process. I mean, to ultimately get to the point where you could possibly remedy the situation. How far down the road is this?
Theoretically, we've got project life, and this is an estimate at this point, but maybe even through 2028. And If we can move it faster, we certainly will, but there's a lot of different federal permitting. There's a lot of stakeholders, state, federal stakeholders, et cetera. So it's a complex, large-scale complex project, so.
So in the beginning, you mentioned, what was the waste that you said is coming into the lake?
I think one of the key causes of the algae was identified in a Department of Health study from, I think it was 2005 or 2008, I can't recall exactly when, but it was phosphorus, I believe.
Yes, so how do you control that?
That's all part of what we're going to look into. How do we minimize those types of things from migrating and making their way into the water supply? So as well
Because
as
that
the
river brings it
sedimentation.
in from who knows where before it gets to Patterson, so.
Yeah. So hopefully aspects such as newer and improved farming practices and those kind of things are already,
Well, that's, yeah.
making some impact and some
Different types of
change.
fertilizer and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Thought it was an interesting stat that you said, basically half of the fill that's come in there, that came in the first, 5 to 10 years of the project?
Yeah, it was a very short duration afterwards that it began sedimenting in, so.
I believe that, yeah.
No, well, the old farming practices, I mean,
And the wind, I mean, everything was,
yeah.
wind was blowing all the dust and, yeah. Interesting.
Any other questions? So ultimately, run through kind of some last minute things, but submitting to the Bureau of Rec for their Water Smart grant here early in 2024, as I said before. Ultimately, the city, as well as the surrounding area, we see this as a major attribute to the community at large, and so we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to protect it and ensure its viability long term. Some of the cons to this, it's a multi-year effort. I mean, there's no way to rush through it, and as I said before, there's multiple federal agencies involved as well as state agencies, local government, things like that. Likely to ultimately conclude or complete this project, it's not feasible without federal, state, and local funding. So it'll have to be a combination of all of the above. And that's something that we're ultimately going to look into if we're awarded the grant, as far as what are those potential funding options depending upon the actual scope of work planned. Some of the risks, ultimately, even though the city is ultimately currently leading the project and everything else, it's not in city limits, so we wanted to make sure we communicated and shared and be a collaborator and everything on this. And really, stakeholder engagement is going to be a critical component overall. There's so many different agencies involved in everything, and then ultimately funding, as I had said before, that's a definite concern and risk to the overall. Anything else? All right, next slide. Touch on the transportation master plan and comprehensive plan that the city's working on. So going back a little over a year ago, we were awarded a Federal Highway Administration planning grant. So we have money through Federal Highway Administration administered through the North Dakota Department of Transportation for the transportation components of the overall project that we're moving on right now. The existing plans were adopted in 2013, and at that time they were two separate individual plans, a transportation master plan and a comprehensive plan. Ultimately, over time, there's been a need for updates to both of these plans. There's a lot of things that are different than what was originally proposed at that time. Population forecast, whatever else. I mean, and at that time, there was no way anybody could have been accurate with the way growth was occurring. There was just no feasible way of accurately forecasting. So ultimately, we officially were under contract as of December of 2023. We forecast this to go through approximately March of 2025. One of the key attributes that we're hoping to bring, and we know that Stark County is working on their comprehensive plan right now, so making sure that there's cohesion in what the Stark County plan shows and with respect to what our transportation master plan and comprehensive plan shows. We're very thankful to have County Planner Mr. Josephson involved and contracted with the city. He's been helping out on this study and done a lot of legwork on preparing us to move into this project. He's also not only a staff member, but then ultimately listed as a member on the study review committee. And then Commissioner Franchuk been involved for some time now with City Planning and Zoning Commission, and then asked to be on the study review committee as well. So I really appreciate your involvement on that. Let's see, next slide. So any questions on the Transportation Master Plan and Comprehensive Plan?
I don't think so, yeah.
Okay. Then on to the next topic, the Public Safety Training Center. So I'm sure everybody's aware the North Dakota National Guard is working on building the new facility out on Energy Drive, and that is on city-owned property. The property then to the west that the city owns, what we're looking at doing is a public safety training center there. Some attributes to the Public Safety Training Center would be collaboration and joint use with the North Dakota National Guard for their facility, as well as for our public safety services and staff. Some things that would need to be done, and we're working with the property owner to the south of the city-owned property, is to dedicate right-of-way, and then ultimately look at constructing a roadway with all utilities, and then submitting for a Department of Defense grant. And that's a Department of Defense grant is associated with infrastructure for these types of facilities that are bring mutual benefit to Department of Defense facilities. And so right now we're working on that grant application. We're working on doing the site layout and the grading plan and everything for our facility, which will include a burn tower, and that could be a multi-use facility also for police and National Guard. And then an indoor shooting range is also one of the key attributes to this. And then the North Dakota National Guard specifically asked for a running track, but not necessarily a track like what you would see for like track and field events, just a pathway that's a continuous or free or easily measured distance, so that they can say, okay, go run 5 or 6 laps and that's a mile. As we work through the site design portion, everything else, we'll be sharing that information with the National Guard, and then ultimately working on a memorandum of understanding for joint use on the facilities. So one of the main risks ultimately to this is, we're really looking to get the Department of Defense grant, hoping to get that submitted later on this year. I think it's due in June. Hopefully we'll know by end of 2024, early 2025 if we're awarded that grant. And worst case, we can submit again for that Department of Defense grant in 2025 if that's available again. So
Is there any public access to this when you have the shooting range in there?
Right now, we're not looking at public access just because of the types of uses for this.
I didn't think so, but I thought I had to ask.
Okay. Yep. Then up on the screen, there's some images of the burn tower, shooting range, et cetera. So,
Do you have a projected cost on this Public Safety Training Center?
including the street construction and to get access to the facility, and then the actual buildings, pre-manufactured buildings, the foundations, a little parking area, some of those kind of things, and then a future area for maybe some office space and like a training room. We're looking, I think, right around 6.5 million. So, and the grant, because of our population size and everything, the grant is 100%. So there's no local government
I was going to ask you
contribution.
how much the grant was going to cover.
Yeah, the 100%, which is nice. So we're hoping to get that. With that being said, any additional questions?
Okay.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for your presentation, Nick.
Yeah, did a good job, thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to talk about the library expansion down to a renovation. And if you want to flip the slide, please. A little history on this, because we've been working on this for quite a while. It started in 2018, and back in April of 21, the City Commission approved a $3 million to work on the expansion. From there, we worked on the USDA loan at that time due to our population. They were using the 2010 census, and we did qualify at that time. Due to that, the other things that happened was that you'll see down the road here that we do not qualify for the USDA loan because they updated just last year in October of 23, they updated to our 2020 census. So that took us out of the community rule. Anyway, during that time with legislation coming through, the passage of House Bill 1205 has reset where do we go, and then this is where the next column comes in, where it's what are the needs now. Mostly, we need to move the adult nonfiction upstairs and create a dedicated children's teen programming space that complies with the House Bill 1205. We need to update our mechanical systems as they are nearing the end of their lifespans. Some are over 10 years old in their lifespan. We've just been band-aiding them as we go along. And then add more functional office space for the employees and make more office space and the bathrooms area ADA compliant because they are not ADA compliant at this time. Next slide, please. Here you see when we came before, we looked at the south of the library. We would go and expand all the way into that lot that the foundation owns at this time, the library foundation owns. This you're seeing right now, this is the basement, the bottom floor of the library. And in there you see just the footprint that we have right now. So just jumping forward here, on the right-hand side of the pink area, anything that's in pink is cosmetics or just moving. So you see on the far side of the right, you see the children's area. That's where the adult nonfiction is at now. And that would all be moved out of there, and that would become a children's area with books, shelves all the way around there, so it's a good place for the children to be able to have their reading programs and everything like that. Then as you go to the left and down towards the bottom there, that goes into the younger children, and then over to the young, they call young youth, and then to the teens towards the bottom there. So then it generates that way on that process. The green area that you're seeing is below the garage that we house the bookmobile right now. That would become the offices. We'd move those areas. When we see the next slide, you'll understand why. But we have to have those built out just to structure what we need to do upstairs. And so those, we decided that we would take the offices that we have now down in that bottom area and then move them back out of the way so that the whole area that you see in the pink area is all for the community children's area on that portion of it. So if you go to the next slide, the next slide is the upstairs. Again, your pinks is the area that we're doing the cosmetic areas to it. The green, I'm going to start on the bottom. So with the green area, we needed, if we move the nonfictions upstairs, we are looking at the left-hand side, bottom area, where the periodicals, historical sides were, and those where they could sit at the table and look at their things there. That's going to be nonfiction, adult fiction area, all in that back area. So we needed to move those, and the design builds out that vestibule. So when you walk in now, that'll be squared off, and that will be the historical and the periodical area on that portion of it. The top part, that's where the old bookmobile garage is. And the reason why we're looking at renovating that is because we just received a grant and we budgeted for a brand-new bookmobile. And we were awarded the grant to help buy a new bookmobile. It won't fit in that garage anymore. Due to our bookmobile is almost 20 years old. And now with the chassis that they have now, with the ADA compliant, they move the wheelchair to the back and everything, it's a lot longer and wider and stuff. So even though we got it down to the very minimum of what we could do, it still won't fit in that garage. But instead of tearing the garage down, again, we're taking those offices that were to the far left and north part of that map. Those are all offices and a break room there. We're turning that all into book area. So we're moving the offices towards the back. You can see the two top area of the greens. And then the one way over to the right, that green area, that's where that driveway is that you can come in. We're looking at building a new garage there if it'll fit. If not, we're gonna have to figure that out. But that's what we're doing. The only downside on this one is we would be reducing the community room down a little bit to be able to suffice more books on that top, be the northeast side of the picture there. So that's what we're looking at. We're staying within the footprints of it and then using, squaring off that front end to be the historical and the periodicals. So if you go to the next page, I'm sorry.
This is basically the building that's there now. This is not the
Yep.
expansion or anything else. This
Nope.
is the building.
The only expansion would be
With
that
the
new
garage.
bookmobile garage if
which
we do it
all-
over there.
We all know that you can never build a garage big enough, so you better build it bigger than you plan.
I'm looking at the south lot, just put it in there, park it in there. Or we're looking at possibly housing it in the Public Works area, Bay Area. They've got to have it down there for maintenance, the fueling and everything's down there, so we're looking at what can we do down there and not build anything on that side of it. Because that is a great entrance into that community center. You know, if you have private things there, we do rent that out and stuff, so it kind of takes it away from that, and so we're not all real thrilled about that yet, but we want to look at what we need to do for House Bill 1205 and under the same pattern that we already have and get that updated because it is so far, there's, I didn't put the pictures in here, but we have a lot of I wouldn't say east side, left side is your Carnegie side, and there is a lot of water damage and stuff that we have just been Band-Aiding and stuff, and that all needs to be repaired and stuff and get it back to the historical side of it. And so with this puts more money towards that on the cosmetic side of it instead of the construction side of it. So if we flip over to the project analysis, put together here the cost of it, we went from 14 to 16 million down to 6.2 million, and that's bringing in the contingencies, the design and everything on that. If we, like I said, the cons on it is the cost, creative with the library programming during the construction, and then staff time before and after the construction. A lot of moving around. We may have to shut the library down for at least a week. If we get all the shelvings in and everything like that, we would have to shut it down to be able to move all those books from downstairs to upstairs and then prepare that. So we've looked at that going in there. The risk is continued cost of repairs to the library's mechanical system. If we don't get that fixed, we're just keep continuing Band-Aiding and it's just costing us more. The difficulty with the ADA compliance. Our new design is looking at ADA bathrooms. We do not have ADA bathrooms at this time. And then the compliance with 1205. And then the other risk is delaying in the expansion or the renovation of this is costing us approximately 10 to 25% more every year that I go and budget this. And then additional finance options, like I said, the Library Foundation Board has been doing some campaigning and fundraising. They have over, now it's 130,000 as of today. The City Commission set aside the 3 million for in '21. And then need commitments from the Stark, Slope, Billings counties and schools. And then our community loan through USDA, there is a loan that we can look at. It would cost us more in the interest because it becomes more of a community loan instead of a rural loan that we had at 2% on that portion of it. So with that, I'm just giving you an update. We've been working on this. We've been here a couple of times. I think I've been here now. If I come again, I'll be in with the new director. We have a new library director in. So we will be coming forward to give you more updates, but I thought with these projects, I wanted you all to know what we're working on and still working on as far as the library goes. Anybody have any questions?
Questions?
All right, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Just want to extend a thank you again for allowing us to get on your agenda and the time allotment that you have given to us. And certainly like to extend an invitation to the county commission. If they want to come to a city commission meeting and provide us with an update, we would certainly be welcome. So thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have a scheduled item is a 10 o'clock bid opening for CP-45-2401, a grading project that's for 41st Street Southwest, 109th Avenue Southwest, and 114th Avenue Southwest.
Thank you. Get here. Perfect. Thank you. I was thinking I was gonna have to write it all on a white piece of
My
paper.
musical chairs here.
So
Here, I got
in
one
this
for you.
bid, right, for this project,
Yeah, it was
they need their, their bond and their contractor's license, okay? But in these ones, I only had advertised of having their contractor license separate.
Okay.
So I'm just giving you a heads up.
And we gotta make sure that they've got this and that they were, and obviously they were all here on time. So,
Okay, then we'll be opening up the bids here. The engineer's estimate on this project was $645,000.
Letter opener.
I had the letter opening. I brought one for this reason.
Didn't see it. Yep. Do you want to use this or not? I don't think so.
I think that's a bad idea. You don't see it?
No.
I literally brought my own letter opener down there.
Here.
Oh. Thank you. Every time.
This one's fine.
Okay, the first bid is for Martin Construction. Total bid is $692,400. $478.16. $692,478.16.
Yeah, this one's fine too.
Next bid is from Bronco Brothers. Total bid is $616,334.42. That's $616,334.42, Bronco Brothers.
There we go.
Next bid is from Edward Schwartz Construction. Total bid is $731,611.83. That's $731,611.83. Next bid is from Jensen Brothers Construction. It is $910,710.60. That's $910,710.60. Next bid is from Lubachuk Construction. Total bid is $578,592.55. That's $578,592.55. Is that all the bids?
Yep.
That's all the bids on that, so we'll have the engineer review the bids and get back to us on that. Yeah. We're gonna open the other bids in right away before we go on break.
And then, before you open those, the bid time on these was 9 o'clock, and I believe, Nicole said that some had come in, or at least one had come in after 9?
rejected.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I don't know that I need, what did you ask for on these?
So I asked for just the contractor's license to be separate.
See, next we'll open the bids for county road bids for bituminous pavement bids, equipment rental, and gravel crushing bids.
Fine.
Finishes. We're just accepting the sheets.
You can just-
These bids are like for a whole year, right?
Correct. Yeah, this is just
The yearly bid, yes.
Right.
Some of them are actual bids though.
That's
We
Fisher.
didn't get any for bid miss.
Would that be for Fisher,
Well,
the gravel crushing?
So the only,
we didn't get it,
anything for bid miss
so we're not actually doing that. 'cause we
Okay,
didn't get any.
there was no bids for the bituminous pavement bids. Okay, so what do we got here?
So
This is for trucking.
we have trucking and equipment rental rates, and then the crushing, the gravel crushing, and we have fencing. So I think as long as they have their
License.
license, then we can approve, like, we'll take these as our rate sheets. Because they're all
Oh,
different.
sure.
There's whole sheets.
And I think you usually just accept all of the bids, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, in the past, we just accepted all of them and then we,
So I think that the one that, as long as they're good, I think this one was good. That's It's for Two's
It's
Construction.
Two's Construction, their bid on, is that rental equipment, is that from?
Any project for more
But it's, I'll just put this together. This one was for trucking. That rate sheet was for trucking. They said. Yeah, trucking. Trucking.
Okay, a bid from Jurgens Operating LLC for trucking.
this is fine.
Wonder if I should just stick this in. I'll do it later. Trucking.
There's another bid for trucking from East End Auto and Truck Parts Incorporated.
This one's signed, just no projects over 100,000.
For fencing. Goes with it.
Who's this?
It goes with it.
And
Oh,
what company is
Ty
it?
Newton fencing.
tiny.
Ty Newton Fencing, to bid on fencing.
This one's signed.
Okay. ABC fencing.
A bid for fencing from ABC Fencing.
Okay, same thing, fine, up to $100,000, so you can't take anything over 100,000.
I'll have to remind her.
Looks at those contractors like this before they bid them.
Ruckus Services, fencing.
Ruckus Service LLC is a bid on fencing.
Halibichuk Construction, rental of equipment.
Okay. Rental equipment, Hlubichuk Construction.
So, just $100,000.
What's the K&T. Equipment rental, K&T services.
Equipment rental from K&T Services. Was it that?
Yeah, sorry. That one wasn't there. Equipment rental, Cordova Construction.
Equipment rental from bid from Cordova Construction.
I think they stuck it to it.
Oh, mine's fine.
Figured. Equipment rental for Martin.
Okay, Martin Construction, bid for equipment.
This is the only one for crushing gravel.
There's one for crushing gravel?
Huh?
Oh, yeah.
This is the,
Yeah, for sure.
do we need to say the amount on this? We'll stop crushing.
Doesn't hurt anything.
And then this is the one bid for crushing and stockpiling gravel.
The bid for crushing gravel from Fisher Industries.
So that we'd be accepting there.
Their bid per unit,
Yeah.
per unit bid of $4.08. That's per cubic yard.
And that's all of them.
And then
Okay.
we should probably make sure that everyone in there has the stuff that you put in there, in your bid, and then.
Yeah,
'cause if they don't,
I
then-
need Road to check them.
Yeah, we need that thing. Scroll.
So need a motion to accept all the bids as presented, but the road will check to make sure that they meet the specifications.
Okay, that's all the bids then. We'd look for a motion to accept all the bids requested and upon approval of the road department.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 pricing for contractors that were submitted.
I'll second.
Motion and second, any other discussion? Roll call vote then, Commissioner White,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh,
Aye.
Commissioner Clares,
Aye.
Commissioner Messer,
Aye, little A.
that's fine, and the chair votes aye, motion carried. Next, we'll take a break until 25 to 11.
My brakes.
Chairs.
recommend awarding it to Liebachuk Construction.
Okay, I'll look for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, then Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Claris.
Aye.
Commissioner Masser.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, motion carried, the bid's accepted. Next, we'll move on to planning and zoning. Mr. Josephson.
Thank you, Chairman Franchuk, Commissioner Steve Josephson, County Planner. There was one public hearing at last week's Planning and Zoning Commission. Gene Prouse was requesting a rezoning from agriculture to rural residential on a property located in the southwest quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 30, Township 139, Range 97, approximately 5 acres. The minimum lot size for rural residential is 5 acres, and it's being requested to help sell that property. Both the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff recommended approval, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Josephson? Okay, now I'll look for a motion then to approve or deny this request.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the Stark County Commission accept the recommendation of the Stark County Planning and Zoning Commission in regards to the application RZ 01-24, rezoning a portion of land from ag to rural residential. Once again, located, where is that at? Oh, located in Township 139 North, Range 97 West, Section 30, the southwest of the northwest quarter.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? Not. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioners. I'll notify the applicant of your
Okay,
action.
thank you. Next, we'll have the emergency manager, Elena Decker, please. She has several items today.
As always. Morning, Commissioners, Chairman.
Morning.
So first on the agenda, I have the Alabama Fire College for the hazmat technician training. And I brought Jared Rohde from the Dickinson Fire Department to kind of speak a little bit about the training and why we want to bring that to the county.
Morning, Commission. So just to talk briefly about the importance of hazmat training. If you can imagine, in our county, we have a lot of rail and highway hazardous materials that come through our area. So last year, the county actually held a countywide exercise to understand readiness in the county and how that played out. And it was really eye-opening to all of the departments in the county and how they need to be prepared for these types of incidents. So the Dickinson Fire Department is the regional operations, hazardous materials operations level trained. So we would respond in that event of that incident. However, we would like the county, the rest of the county departments to be, at least to that level to help us work together as a region. So we actually took it upon ourselves. I believe it was last month. We held a training for the Gladstone Fire Department, Taylor Fire Department, and we trained them in hazardous materials awareness level. So that's their first step. And then here in the next month or two, we'll hold a operations level training to get the ones that pass the awareness up to operations level. And then we would like to move forward with the technician level, which is the highest level of for operations wise for hazmat. And then that just provides a higher level of training. So it's a 50-hour training. And currently with the Dickinson Fire Department, we have about 20 members who are at that technician level, but ideally we would have at least a couple technicians, located throughout the county on each of these, the smaller rural departments. So we held this training in Dickinson last year, and it was a great training, great instructors that come up from Alabama. Very knowledgeable. It's about 50 hours, but we do it over the course of the week. So just longer days, about 10-hour days, that you're doing. And then it is also nationally accredited, so it is recognized by the Pro Board and IFSAC. So it is a national certification. So.
So I have grant money available to pay for a portion of the class, and then Dickinson Fire has agreed to pay for the remainder. So what I'm looking for today is for funds to pay for that initial payment, and then after the payment and I have a receipt, I can submit for reimbursement. So it would be probably about $28,875 total.
28,875?
Yep, so the cost of the class is $24,875, and then it's $150 for the books that are required, and I have spots for 20 people. And
I was just gonna ask you, how many people do that 28,000 would cover?
Yep, 20 people, and I can pretty much guarantee you I'll fill those 20 spots.
And we would take the money from where?
So we, we could just do it out of the general fund because it's actually gonna be reimbursed.
Yep, it'll be reimbursed.
Okay,
Between the city of Dickinson and the grant.
I would make that motion that we,
So is it rough, what is it, $1,400-$1,500 per person total? If it's spread out or with books?
Spread out.
It's about $750, but then the travel fees for the instructors and things like that.
Okay.
I would make that motion that we put $28,750 towards this proposed education for hazmat materials, and when it's done, we just get it paid back.
It's 28,875, right?
Oh, that's what it was, okay.
Yeah, if I'm doing my math right, it's 28,875. So 24,875 for the class, about 4,000 for books.
Okay. To whatever that amount was.
Just looking for a number. I'd second that, Bernie. But I would just, like add to the discussion. So you're saying a portion of this is gonna come out of grant money that you currently have under
Yep.
the 911 budget? Okay.
Yep, about 22,400 will come out of the grant.
Okay, so do you have any other items that you had possible uses for that grant money this year?
I don't for this year's grant. This grant money was set aside specifically for training, and there's not a lot of trainings that come here that are worth the money or offer the certification. This is probably the best one. So my goal was to use up this money. This is actually last year's money, so I wanted to use up this last year's money on this, and then going forward, I'm applying currently for some props that we can use within the county. They would be mobile, so any department within the county could use them, and they would help us train these other departments on these skills, and hopefully, my goal is eventually to alternate between training money and prop money and create, essentially make us self-sufficient on this type of training for the county.
So Elena, you said out of your grant account, the money's already in there, the 22,000 you said?
It's the grant money's approved and.
Oh, it's approved.
It's
Okay.
approved. The split cost after the cost share the state would pay for 22,400.
Okay, so you don't, but the money has not been received, right?
No.
Because you have to submit.
I have to submit the
receipt
receipts,
to them.
yes.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm seeking the money from the commission first, and then once the
Okay.
receipts, kind of like the security scanners.
Right.
I need the receipt
Yes.
first, so.
So your ultimate goal is to get to the point where you actually can provide this training, get certified to provide this training in-house, basically?
Yeah, so how it works right now, the state of North Dakota doesn't have technician level, they have awareness and ops. And yes, ultimately, with Elena wanting to get the props and stuff, we could bring this training to other departments because we do have certified instructors within our department. And then it is on the North Dakota Firefighters Association's list of trainings that they're working on getting accredited for. So within the next year or two, hopefully they'll have that in, and then we would be able to certify people in other departments too. But for right now, we have to seek outside people to come in and do the training to get certification.
Last year, what was the hazmat training that you did? Was that the Gladstone fire drill spill, or?
Yeah, that would be the Red Trail.
Red Trail.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call vote then. Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Commissioner Claris.
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Messer.
Aye.
And chair votes aye, motion carried.
Okay, next I have the vehicle transfer from the sheriffs. I spoke with Sheriff Corey Lee and inquired on some of the vehicles that they had in their possession that they were not using. They had one that they were willing to transfer to us. With a bunch of upcoming trainings me and my deputy have, it would be nice to have an additional vehicle here. One vehicle could be for response and one could be for travel purposes, for trainings. So I'm seeking just to transfer that vehicle into our use.
She talked to me about that, and I guess the word was, I don't know if we want to just transfer it, or does she have to buy it from the sheriff's department, I guess, because in the past we've done it both ways, so.
Well, there needs to be something on the books, right, Karen? I mean, as far as a transfer of assets from one department to another?
Yeah, but if sheriff's department wanted to charge her $1, I wouldn't be opposed.
Okay. Does it have wheels? Okay, all right, good.
But yes, I don't know what the value is or.
Okay.
She can have it.
I can look for a motion then to approve the transfer of that vehicle.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we transfer
10:47 a.m.
Perfect.
a vehicle from the sheriff's department to emergency management for a second vehicle.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? Not, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Elena, for that vehicle, just talk to Sherry after the meeting,
Okay,
and she'll put it over under emergency management.
thank you.
You're gonna keep the lights on it?
Probably.
Okay.
Next I have on the agenda is the battery backup for dispatch. This is a service contract that we sign yearly for them. So I'm looking for approval to sign this contract for new year for $5,848. That would come out of my 911 equipment line item. And I do have available funds for that.
So, okay. Mr. Chairman, I would move that we move forward on the contract with, this is Vertiv, is that the right?
Vertiv, I think.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Vertiv, contract for the 911 dispatch, or the dispatch battery maintenance contract, I guess that's what this is.
Yep. Their battery backup system.
And the amount is what again?
It was $5,848.
The amount of $5,848 to come out of the 911 dispatch budget.
Do you have a motion to have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any other discussion? Not, then roll call vote. Commissioner Claris.
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Masser.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Motion carried.
Lastly, I have on the agenda that got added earlier, it's the Motorola contract. This is our radio system for, our radio system for dispatch. This got delayed. This got sent to the old emergency manager, Shauna Davenport, to her email. And so it didn't get caught by me in time. They called us, so I had to add it on last minute. This is for the service contract for the radios. It has jumped up. Last year it was about $18,000. This year we're looking at $23,037. I asked why the price increase, and it sounds like they're giving us some services that previously they were not charging us for. So they're doing on-site maintenance and they're doing remote maintenance, and then previously they were not charging us for those. And now that we've had the contract for 4 years, now they will start charging us for those services.
Did
And
they
this-
name the services that they weren't charging us for?
Yeah, so it's should be included under that service package there. And this is statewide. It's not just us that are affected by this price increase. This is all PSAPs within the
I still don't
state.
see the services that they weren't charging us for, that they are now.
So they weren't charging us for the support or the updating. All the services that they have listed there were ones that they weren't charging us, like for some of the support. I guess they didn't really list out the stuff they weren't charging us for, but talking to Liz Okerson, who runs dispatch, it sounds like they weren't charging us for the maintenance or the services.
And you're looking for a 4-year maintenance agreement?
This is for a 1 year. This is just year 4 of the maintenance contract.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you think it also had to do with that we hadn't gotten, are these for the newer radio system? So we probably hadn't gotten all our radios yet, and then that's why now. This isn't the state radio program?
This is part of the state radio, but this is just for the whole service
Just
of
for
the radios,
dispatch.
yeah.
Okay.
This is not ECI.
No.
This is Motorola Solutions. So some of these services now that they're gonna offer us, we were using through ECI. And now with that Motorola will be providing them for us, like the on-site and the remote, we shouldn't need to rely on ECI as much.
Okay. That makes more sense.
So it's probably a wash. You don't have to use ECI.
I think it will end up being a wash.
Okay. Look for a motion on this matter.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the Motorola Solutions contract for dispatch radio. I guess, what are they? Tech support?
Yeah,
It's our
the
support contract, service
Motorola
agreement.
service
Okay.
maintenance.
In the amount of $23,037.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any other discussion? If not, roll call then.
Elena, is that out of the 911?
Yep, that will come out of my 911 equipment.
Okay.
Okay, roll call then. Commissioner Claris.
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Masser.
White, aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried.
Thank you.
You have one more item on your,
Yep.
the Homeland Security
Yep.
camera grant?
Oh, yeah. I didn't write that one down. So this grant was started by Shauna Davenport, so I'm helping finish it out here. This is to replace the security cameras in the courthouse. Read that amount for what AVI, we got 3 bids. AVI came in at the lowest, so the state approved for the AVI bid. So I'm looking for funds to purchase AVI, the contract, and through the service, and same thing, once we make the purchase, we have the check to them, and they give me a copy, I can send in for reimbursement, and this one is 100% reimbursed.
Okay. So this just come on the general fund initially here, Karen, for now?
Yeah, well, we'll probably want to have like in our miscellaneous, I think we have like a miscellaneous grants type
Okay.
thing. We'll probably want to put those under there just so we can find them again.
Okay.
Okay, I'll look for a motion on this matter then. For the Homeland Security cameras grant.
I'll make a motion.
Chairman, I would move for approval.
Okay, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A second, any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, Commissioner Messer,
Aye.
Commissioner Claris,
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh,
Aye.
Commissioner White.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. Thank you. Next, we have Highway 10 east of I-94 bridge speed limit. Commissioner White, you brought that up?
Yeah, there's a couple organizations out there, just east of the I-94 bridge, who's brought up in the past the speed limit out there. I'm not exactly sure where it turns 55, but they'd asked if we could keep the speed to 45. I know we've had a couple bad accidents right there at the bridge and Highway 10 last year, but a lot of them semi-trucks and tractors coming out are permitted trucks, so they're overweight, from the Profrac area, the Peterbilt yard, and just to the south, close to the interstate, there's a bunch of truck companies too. And there's a bunch of near misses that they've reported, trying to pull semi-trucks out onto Highway 10 with the speed limit being 55 mile an hour. So they asked if we could bring it to the commission, reduce it to 45 or something, give their trucks a little bit more time to get out onto the road. I have not seen where the 55 mile an hour zone starts though.
I don't recall. If you would have mentioned this to me, I would have checked and made sure where it's at. But I also think, we wanna make sure that that school there is getting quite heavily populated now, that church. If anybody remembers the name of it, I don't, but,
Dave Bennett's church there.
so if we could even go a quarter mile past that.
And I thought maybe to where the new proposed maybe bypass would be at,
That 107th there.
Yeah.
107th to that street, and then it can resume to 55.
Because we're gonna have a lot of added traffic in that area when Gooseneck opens up there too.
What I was just thinking about too.
Yeah, and them trucks don't get out on them roads as quick as the vehicles do, so I think we propose having, from the east of the bridge to 107th, turn down to 45 mile an hour.
Or do you want it to give it some lead time before you cross the bridge? What do you think? I mean, like by Tiger Discount, it turns to 45.
Well, it's 45 once you cross into city limits.
Yeah.
So I think you wanna stay consistent with that, but, if you're going to do that, you probably wanna slow them down a little bit before 107th. There's gonna
Yes.
be a lot of truck traffic turning.
I'm
and
talking
coming
just
on.
east of the bridge to 107th.
So coming
Right, I
from
think you wanna go further east of 107th.
Oh, okay.
That's for
Well,
eastbound traffic is what
If
you're
the
talking.
majority of the
Yeah, a lot of
traffic
it is.
is gonna be confined to 107 and west, we wouldn't need much lead time on the 107 going further east, would we?
I think we should start at your driveway, Neil.
Hey, I usually use a bicycle anyways.
Well, I think at least a quarter mile is probably appropriate, cause you're gonna have trucks turning off and on Highway 10 onto 107th. So just thinking about winter conditions and whatnot. If you want this to accomplish what Corey's asking, I think, yeah, there should be some distance there before 107.
Have you noticed problems there?
Not at 107, but like the curve, we've had some good accidents in the curve just west of the school there, where we've had some
That takes a-
rollovers.
Pretty audacity person to intentionally run into one of the semi trucks that are pulling out, but still 55 compared to 45, it gives
More
them
reaction time.
More reaction time.
Are you making a motion and what is it?
Yes, I will. So I'd make from just east of the bridge on Highway 10 to quarter mile past 107th east, reduce the speed limit to 45 mile an hour.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Any other discussion? Not, all in favor, state aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Another item on our agenda is a tax abatement for 2 lots. Those are actually the lots that we, I guess, were sold here that are actually in the middle of the Sheenaggles wheat field. I guess,
So we had somebody buy both lots. They were told that they do not have access to the lots because they're landlocked, but they bought them anyways. And we have a total for the 2 parcels, not specials, but actual taxes of $117.18 that we need to abate out. So I would look for a motion to abate out the $117.18 on the 2 county-owned parcels that were sold.
Mr. Chairman?
yes,
So technically, this is not an abatement because abatement deals with private property on valuation. So I'm in support of this, obviously, but I think the technical term might be just we need to discharge that tax, Karen.
Yes, they just refer to it when we send it, because we send it into the state as taking those off.
Yeah, I would move we discharge the tax amount of 117.18 on those 2 particular parcels.
I'd second.
motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay. Roll call vote then. Commissioner Messer. Commissioner White.
Aye.
Commissioner Marsh.
Aye.
Commissioner Claris.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. That's all our items on the agenda. Is there anything else, or? I just wanted to point out, I serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the city on that, and I just wanted to point out that there's a right-of-way vacation, the vacation that was done over by, on our West Industrial Park, where actually for Maker Boy out there, they vacated the property, or there was a 213 feet. It was on First Street Southwest, that's between GTA and 48th Avenue Southwest, so that was done. And then also they're expanding the cemetery down here that's in the ETZ also, actually what I call the old St. Joe's across the road to the east side. They're expanding that cemetery too, so just your information. Is there anything else? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, state aye.
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 Letter opener.
Aye.
Those opposed?